Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Paris Set Me Free show with me, Sab in Paris. And I really must get a typically cringy Paris mug. And I will. I promise you I will. Very, very soon. I'm not sure when. I'd love to get one this week, this weekend maybe. An awful mug with the Eiffel Tower on it. Right now I've got this kind of, poor little cliche of French people being frogs because they eat frogs. Although I'm sure the Sun newspaper would approve. They have things like headlines like "Frogs Go Home" and that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Paris for the next hour. Anything and everything that comes to my mind. I've been in Paris for nearly 3 decades, and I've spent a lot of my time roaming around the streets in, a better or worse state, often taking photographs. And the thing that I love most is going into Paris and seeing what the city offers me. I don't know what's going to happen. This is especially true for my photographs. I publish a photograph of Paris every day and a text, which is inspired by the photograph, although it's not always about Paris. And this is my contribution, my attempt to honor this city, which has given me a feeling of belonging and a place to be where I feel at home, and something to write about and something to inspire me. I say that the city is my creative inspiration, and that the Eiffel Tower, which I kind of cringingly call Lady Eiffel, is my artistic muse. There she is. I painted it all myself. And and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Talk about Paris, photograph Paris, write about Paris, curiosities of Paris, and some other stuff as well. Painting. I put my paintings up on the streets, as sort of secret street artist, these little squares. And today on the Paris Set Me Free show, I'm going to talk to you about what's new in my creative world in and around Paris. So let me share my screen with you. I've got a new screen sharing effect now, and it's going to cover the entire screen. So here it comes. I didn't set this up beforehand. Sorry. Got quite a lot of stuff to show you. And I'm also going to show you something from the Paris.fr site. What's new in Paris according to Paris, which is kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And they've got some lovely stuff. It's really great. I'm going to incorporate it into the show each week. So without further ado, this is where you can see all my creative stuff. Let me get rid of the bookmark bar. And this is the group where this is going live, and also where I put all my Paris stuff. So I put the show. You can watch the show here. You can see my quizzes here. Let me get back onto the homepage there. So I'll be looking at quizzes. I'm going to give you a quiz right now. See if you know what the answer is when it wants to charge up. So I've got 2 types of quizzes. The first is based on one of my Paris photographs, and I give you a very sort of official, nicely created Paris quiz with 3. Normally there's a question or a sentence to complete, and there's 3 or 4 possibilities. The other is called Where's Sab? And I show you a place, and you have to tell me where I am, what I'm looking at, or where I'm taking the photograph from. So here is the first quiz. Here it comes. Now, you might have seen this already, or you might not. I'm trying to get these more closer to a few times a week than just once a week, but it's taking a little while. And okay, I'm live. That's good news. So here's the first quiz, and it's number 25. There are plenty more to come. Watch out for them. And just trying to blow that up. So it says here, it should get bigger in a minute. Here we can just about see the famous something at the something. Does that want to get any bigger? I think there we go. So, in fact, it's very difficult to see the famous monument in this picture. Can you see where it is? By the way, say hello if you're watching the replay or even live. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear what your favorite place in Paris is and why. And also, if you have any questions about Paris, ask me. I'll have an answer. It might not necessarily be the answer, but I'll have an answer. I'll answer any questions that you have one way or another. So here's one of today's quizzes. Here we can just about see the famous something at the something. Is it A? Here we can just about see the famous Colonne Vendôme at the Place de la Concorde. Is it B? We can just about see the famous Colonne de Buren at the Palais Royal, or is it C? We can just about see the famous Colonne de Juillet at the Bastille. And if you look in the left side of the photograph there, that's the column I'm talking about. See it there? Okay, good. Give me some answers if you want to, and I will come back to you. All right, let's see what happens if I do this. My poor old computer is getting a bit old at the moment, so struggling a little bit. Here we go. So where am I? Okay, I'm back on the page before. All right, let's see if I can go back to this page, and I will talk about something else in the meantime. So here are my latest photographs. That's something we're going to talk about. This is my latest set of Paris photographs. There's 9 per chapter, and I produce a new one every day. They have text with them as well. So these ones look like this. There's a new series which is on its way, which looks like this. Let's see if I can show you. Now, I haven't finished this chapter. This is the current chapter that I'm working on, but there are 5 members to this series, and they look like that. I'm also going to talk about this. Do you know what this is? This is taken in Paris, outside at Trocadero, about 4 days ago, because you know what's happening. This is happening. Yep, it's the French election, and we're in the second round. And last night was the debate between Macron, who is the current president, of course, and Marine Le Pen, who would like to be. And they had a big debate yesterday, and I didn't see it because I had other things to do. I saw the highlights. It's actually much better than watching 2 people shouting at each other for about 2 3/4 hours. So I let them do their thing. I don't think they missed me, and we'll see what France says on Sunday. And I can't vote. I haven't got French citizenship yet. Maybe I will, but I'll talk a tiny bit about that in a second. So that's my artistic attempt of a photograph outside the Trocadero. I visited a place called the Musée de l'Homme last weekend on Sunday, and it's basically the Museum of Mankind for France. So that was great, and there will be pictures from that coming soon as well. What's happened to this? Has this decided to come back? All right, now I've got another quiz question, which I will show you as well. If anyone wants to contribute a new computer for me, that's okay. I will accept. Humbly, I will accept. And yeah, so join this and get anyone else to join if you like. If you want regular photographs of Paris, anecdotes on Paris. So here's another one. So this is another quiz that I have. It's my other quiz, and it's called Where's Sab? And you have to tell me either what I'm looking at or where I'm taking the photograph from. You get bonus points in this case because I'm taking the photograph from a particular place as well. Right? So that's the other question I'm asking you. So let me know what you think I'm looking at and where you think I'm taking the photograph from. These are specific places, not just random things. Okay. And the other one was this. Is the answer A, B, or C to this one? And I'll come back to that in a little while. If you have any comments on that, you want to try guessing feel free. I'll also be looking at the Paris site. So this is paris.fr. It's in French, of course. I don't think there is an English version, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cherry pick. I'm going to take the things that interest me most. Just have a look and see what they've got to say about Paris. They've got some really nice things, such as this thing on the right. Now, this is little snippets from the past. It's very interesting. They call it Did You Know? And for each day, they seem to have one of these Did You Know? And it's about the history, the building of Paris, old buildings that don't exist, war things. I'm going to look at one of those today as well. Okay, so this is what we're here for. This is Paris, and I'll be diving down into the streets if I need to give you any more details about anything. So these are my absolute latest photographs. Let's see if any of them are relevant to Paris. Again, questions please, comments please, especially questions and comments about Paris, your experience in Paris. This one, do you know where this is? Well, you might guess that it's in a cemetery. It's actually in the most famous cemetery of all in Paris, maybe in the world, I don't know. It's Père-Lachaise. And I did something that I love doing, and that was tried to go off the beaten track. Not always as easy as you think it might be. So I tried going off the beaten track, and I was in Père-Lachaise, and I went down an alleyway which I hadn't been down before. You might find that strange, you know, because of a cemetery. How big can a cemetery be? I've been in Paris for nearly 30 years. How can I not have gone down a certain alleyway? Well, I hadn't. It was by the wall. You actually follow the wall. You go behind the gravestones, off the main path, and there was a kind of a half path there, so it's not scrambling around amongst dead bodies. And of course, I found some new things to take photographs of, and which are not visible to people on the normal paths. This one is absolutely beautiful. It's there's lots of these big, tall sort of sepulchres. I'm not exactly sure what you call them or how you pronounce it, but like little sort of houses. They're a bit like you imagine portable toilets, but they're not. They're sort of, well, they look like this. You're looking into one here, and normally the door should be closed, but in this case it's open. You kind of wonder why, you know, some of the doors are open. Did the dead people get bored and decided to walk off? Who knows? And some of them are absolutely boring and grey and decrepit, and things are broken. And every now and then you find one that is absolutely beautiful. So you've got the wooden cross, and behind it you've got the sun. Well, it could be rising or it could be setting, but seeing as it's in a graveyard, I imagine it might be setting behind the cross. And it's absolutely beautiful. Graveyards are great for crumbling, flaking paint. So there's plenty of that if you look on the edge here as well. I write about all of these, so feel free to go to parissetmefree.com if you want the text. But I'll try to not read much because, you know, you can read on your own. But I do spend a lot of time on the writing, so that's something to check out as well. That's my other art form that goes with this. There's the writing and there's the photographs, and they're both as important as each other. What else on this one? Not too much very, very Paris-y stuff. This one is... I kind of wrote an ode to amazing pipes that you sometimes see. Underground stations are amazing for them. And sometimes they're really surprising because in some underground stations you don't see these, and in others there's this incredible, huge, lovely, detailed red pipe with brass bits on it and brackets and knobs and dials and things. And you think, why haven't all the other stations got that? What are we missing? They haven't tried to hide it. They've actually made it look more important. And I think as I'm speaking, I'm thinking probably because it's a fire, it's probably a fire thing with water in it. So it's probably so that fire people can see it as soon as they get down there. But I love that. I love the way it contrasts amazingly with the very clinical white tiles. You've also got blue, green, red, and yellow. which is pleasing, isn't it? And then the last one on this with Paris, there was another one, I think. Yeah, it's this one here. So here we have, well, guess where I am? Stop the video. Guess. Type it in the chat. See if you're right. This is the Musée de l'Homme. And I've just realized it says so down there. But maybe you didn't see that. And on the wall, as you come in and go up the stairs to the museum, they have welcome written in quick glance. I'm going to say, let's say 50 different languages. Lit up, luminous signs. That's pretty cool. There's Beatrice going down the steps. Hi, Bea. And followed by a shady character who contributed to my little poem here. I'll just bring this up and then take it down again so that if you want to stop the video there and read it, you can. And this is a great museum. I really enjoyed it because it's not too big and you've got a great view of the Eiffel Tower from the windows. So look out for some photographs of the Eiffel Tower from the windows of Musée de l'Homme, the Museum of Mankind, coming up soon. It's about the history of man, and in particular focusing on the sort of prehistoric times when there were other species. There were various other species slowly evolving, into what would become man, and certain branches which didn't survive. And we've got some amazing caves in France, like the Lascaux, I think it's called Lascaux, and they have incredible cave paintings. So yeah, great heritage there in France. All right, let's move over to the Paris site. Let's have a look at, see what they're talking about. Well, they're talking about the French elections. Unsurprisingly, there it is. Now, which is the best one? Like that or like that? Yeah, like this is best. Okay, so I'm no expert. I'm not particularly interested in politics. So I'll just tell you that it's the incumbent president, who is Emmanuel Macron, has been here for 5 years, and the outgoing one, sorry, the pretender to the throne is Marine Le Pen, and her father was extreme right, and she is trying to tone things down. But the most interesting thing that I think has happened is with French politics recently, is that last time Emmanuel Macron was elected, and he was kind of center right, but pretty much center, much more center than the traditional right, and certainly much more center than the traditional left. And in the past, it used to be the big race used to be between the traditional left and the traditional right. Then along came Macron, and he got elected. So what seemed to happen was that all of a sudden, because he's kind of in the middle, his policies weren't necessarily too far from the traditional left or too far from the traditional right. So people who were looking for a real alternative to him had to go more extreme. And because he's in the middle, that meant going more extremely left or my arms aren't right, by the way, more extremely left or more extremely right. So what has happened for the last 2 times, actually, is that Macron's main contender, in other words, the one who made it to the second round, is what is generally referred to as extreme right. Because the traditional right and the traditional left in France have absolutely disintegrated, imploded, a complete and utter disaster, embarrassment, and they're no longer a political force. It's really incredible. And that the proof for that is that in the first round of the French elections, when there were about 10 candidates going for it, Macron got the most votes, like something like 27% or something. Marine Le Pen from the far right got the second most with something like 23%. The next best candidate at about 20%, so a massive score for number 3, but number 3 doesn't make it to the second round, with about 20%, was Mélenchon, who is pretty much far left. So the people who attracted the most votes, apart from the center guy, was extreme left and extreme right. And then the traditional left and right, really the mainstream candidates, the ones who were winning a few years ago, got things like 2%, 3%, 5%. Absolutely incredible. So although I'm not really interested in politics that much, this is an interesting situation. And the next round, the final round, is on Sunday. I think Macron will win, but it's closer than last time, that's for sure. So let me go back to some photographs. If you're watching on the replay or if you're watching live, feel free to say hello. I'd like to hear from you. Have a question, if you have a question about Paris, or tell me something that you love about Paris, a place you've been that you really like, or if you want to ask me a question about any of the things you see here, let me know. So this is my last chapter, which didn't exist the last time I did the show 2 weeks ago. It's absolutely brand new. And isn't that amazing? In 2 weeks, 14 new photographs, texts, and experiences can come into being. So let me talk a little bit about some of these. So this one is very curious. It's looking down on a very strange building. Didn't exist a few years ago. It was built to bring together some disparate units of the French military, Air Force, Navy, and Army. And they were scattered around Paris and elsewhere, and they brought them all together. And this is now the French equivalent of the US Pentagon. And of course, because France is known as the Hexagon, because it's more or less hexagon shaped, apart from Brittany. Let me just show that to you. If we zoom out here, you will see that France is kind of hexagon shaped. So if you go along there up the top, nearest part to Britain, down there, down the side of Italy and Switzerland, Germany, then a much more ragged, jagged coastline, but still kind of a hexagon along to Spain, and then the Pyrenees going that way, and then up here to the edge with just this bit of Brittany sort of spoiling it. It really is a hexagon. It's quite amazing. So France's nickname is the Hexagon, and they've called their military equivalent to the Pentagon the Hexagon. I'm not sure if it's 100% official or not. No, actually, having said that, I kind of am, because if you look down on it, you see something very interesting. Just going to say hello to someone. Hello, Dorothy. Hello, Dorothy. Nice to have you here. I'm not sure if you can look down on it from Google Maps because, well, it's the Ministry of Defense. So, they probably don't want you to. But I mean, I've seen pictures of it from above, and it's down here near this Parc André-Citroën. So if you see here, it says Parc André-Citroën. In that park is the other thing that's in this photograph. You see there on the right, it's a balloon. This balloon is anchored in the Parc André-Citroën. So you can actually go up and down in a hot air balloon and have a view of Paris, which is unlike any other. And you're in a balloon, so that's probably a bit more exciting than maybe even being up the top of the Eiffel Tower, and certainly more exciting than being at the top of the Montparnasse Tower. Although the big advantage of being at the top of the Montparnasse Tower, let me just show you what that looks like. Show you just how beautiful it really is. Okay, that's what it looks like. So you can see it's an absolute eyesore. And so the big advantage of the Montparnasse Tower, it has two advantages. It has a great view from the top, and from the top, you can't see the Montparnasse Tower. So that's pretty cool. Coming back to Google Maps, I'm going to try and see what happens when I go zoom in here. Because if you walk around this building, there are notices everywhere saying, do not take photographs. If you do, you will be shot on sight, or something along those lines. So they call it Balardagon, I think, which I'm not sure actually what they call it. So I'm going to try and zoom down here and see if I can show you what the walls of it look like. Who knows? Kind of exciting, don't you think? So that is really interesting. So we are actually looking at the Ministry of Defense there. Can you see it? Look at that. That is the view. That is what Google Maps are showing us of the Ministry of Defense. They don't even want you to see the walls. I mean, you could walk down there and take photographs of it, but they don't want you to do that. But they're not going to stop you. They might if they saw you, if you looked like a terrorist or something. But that's what they've done to Google Maps. I'm just going to zoom out here a bit and look back. Wow, we've still got this. It's still blurred. Let me go right the way to the crossroads here. All right, now it's starting to be a tiny bit less blurred. That's amazing. I didn't realize they'd done that. All right, so I think this is a motorway, but a little bit further on, you've got part of the 𝘓𝘓𝙀𝙀, which is great. So turning around here, that is very spooky, don't you think? Very spooky indeed. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the beautiful tour I gave you of the new French ministry. I'm going to come out now, and I'm going to see what happens if I do an aerial view. I'm going to go down here, and wonder if I can see a satellite or something like that. See there, it says Ministère des Armées. I don't think it wants to show me anything like that. So you can see there's a hexagon. There's actually a little hexagon in the middle. And if I look for, in another one here, I'm going to look for, okay, so you've enjoyed pictures of Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron. There they are. It's funny, you look at this main picture here. He looks, I don't know what he's trying to look like. He almost looks like it could be a cardboard cutout. Whereas she does look much more approachable and, personable. And yet, in truth, she's the hard right, extreme right, in some cases, very, very worrying right. Although some people say they're worried about Macron as well. A lot of people are. And just one more thing on the election. The problem a lot of people have is that they really don't want Macron. They really don't want him. Can you imagine? All the people on the moderate right don't want him. All the people on the moderate left don't want him. All the people on the extreme left don't want him. And yet they've got a choice between him and an extreme candidate with a lot of historical baggage. So it's really quite a tricky situation for a lot of people. Many people are voting for Macron because they don't want Le Pen, but they really don't want Macron either. Okay, so I'm just going to look for ministry, French Defense Ministry. Because I'm sure I got some pictures of the actual hexagon looking down on it, and it was pretty cool. By the way, while I'm waiting for that to load, what do you think the roofs are supposed to look like? They're supposed to look like a certain form. All right, what have we got here? Yeah, there we are. We're kind of looking down on it. Yeah. Okay, so on some of these photographs, you can kind of see it's a very interesting complex. Now you see, sort of looking down there, you've got a kind of a hexagon shape here, and I think there's actually a real hexagon right in the middle there. Oh, it doesn't get any bigger than that. Yeah, there's a little hexagon right in the middle, and the whole thing seems to be a bit hexagon shaped. So that's pretty exciting, isn't it? Pretty cool. All right, let's get rid of that. Well, I'll tell you what they're supposed to look like. The roofs are supposed to look like the wings of a stealth bomber, just for your information. Why is there a helicopter flying around? Well, I'm hovering, as it were, over the Paris helipad, and that's down here, Heli Paris. Sometimes I work in a building that is here, and I look down and I can see Ministry of the Defense and the balloon on one side and helicopters taking off and landing on the other. This area here, by the way, can you see this? This strip. In fact, there's a strip like that right the way around Paris. If you look, you see, it goes right the way around there on the south, right the way to the river. You see, there's these two boulevards here. And this big one on the outside, Boulevard Périphérique, this is the big ring road. You know, you don't cross that on foot. It's the mean, nasty Paris ring road, a bit of a death trap, pretty horrible. And just inside it, all the way around Paris, are these boulevards. And I think they call them the Boulevard Maréchaux, the Marshal Boulevards. And they're named after marshals from the Second World War, I think. And in between them is this gap. It's pretty standard right the way, if we follow it round, it stays pretty constant, you see, right the way around, right the way around. And on it goes. Okay, it seems like there's something not quite there, or maybe they built. There's a park. It's because there's a park there, and then it carries on here. You see, there's this boulevard here, boulevard here. So what this means is there's this area in between the périphérique, which is not very nice to live near, and this boulevard, and this boulevard, these boulevards all the way around, they used to be the outside of Paris. They literally used to be a wall. And on the other side of the wall, on the outside of the wall, there was a big trench, something like 300 meters, big, where there was nothing built. And this was so that they could see the enemy coming. So it's not by coincidence that there was this huge piece of land, 300 meters wide or so, right the way around Paris, because it was like a moat. There wasn't any water in it, but it was like a moat, which, like around a castle, which had water in to stop people, be an additional barrier. And when they finally decided that they probably really didn't need that wall anymore, because that wall was just the last of many, many walls that were built as Paris grew. Well, they kind of had this big area. So what happened was they built the motorway, but they built it on the outside of that area, which left this strip of land, which various things happened to it. In some cases, it got university buildings built on it. In some cases, a lot of cases, it's sports grounds. You can see down where I was just showing you, they built the defense, the new defense ministry. So it's a kind of a curious area. It's another sort of curiosity of Paris. It is in Paris because, in general, the périphérique is the outside of Paris. Outside the périphérique, you're then in the suburbs. So that's just another little bit about Paris. I got a message from Dorothy saying, I think the left candidate recommended to vote on Le Pen. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Dorothy, but what I can tell you is Mélenchon, the extreme left candidate, said very clearly not to vote for Le Pen. I think I saw a news clip, and I'm not sure if that's a mistake and you said no Le Pen, but it looks like you're saying that he said to vote for Le Pen. So I think someone asked him, we're not sure. Are you saying that your voters, like 20% of the voters, that could make a massive difference, should vote for Le Pen or not, or Macron? And he said about 10 times in a row, do not vote for Madame Le Pen. Do not vote for Madame Le Pen. Do not vote for Madame. And then at the end he said, is that clear enough? So he doesn't want Le Pen. I think that's pretty clear. Okay, let's go back. So that's interesting. And this one was taken from the very edge of a new park, and I'll show you where it is. The new park is here, and it's called Parc 𝙏𝙝𝙚 Martin Luther King. So it's a bit of a clumsy name, but they've created in the last few years a nice new park, which in a place that needed it really, the 17th. It's not the funnest arrondissement, not much going on there, in fact. They do have another nice park here. It's called Square des Batignolles. I'm just wondering if I've got a satellite view somewhere so I can actually see. What does that say? Layers, could that be it? Yeah, so you can see it's pretty grim. It's houses, 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 and then there's this there's this one little park in the middle. I mean, there's the odd square or so, and then you get over here and you're looking at the Montmartre Cemetery. But look at this; it's just a continual bank of typical Parisian houses interspersed with railways. So not that much fun. They have this nice little park, which is one park for thousands and thousands of people. It's not that much. But it's actually very nice. It's called Square des Batignolles on a disused freight yard. And that was nice to discover. And funnily enough, I discovered it properly for the first time about 2 weeks ago. It's incredible. I really do not know all of the city. And thankfully, they created, I think, on more disused freight lines, this thing here, which is a slightly strange park, but they've tried their best to make it nice. It's surrounded by these modern buildings, which is kind of strange, but I'm just wondering if I can go down there and show you. Does it allow me to go down on the alleys or not? Okay, maybe I can go down there. Let's see. Yeah, it's dropping me down there. So this is what it looks like, or part of it. And it's surrounded by these modern buildings, which is kind of strange, because you don't normally see buildings like this in Paris. Now, the buildings have got a nice view of the park. Whether the park has a nice view of the buildings is, I'm not sure if it works in both ways. And if this photograph is modern enough, we will see the new, I think it's the new courts, the tribunal, Paris Tribunal, which is a pretty amazing building. Is it there in the photograph? I think this Google Map seems to have dumped me into a sort of dump yard or something. So you can't actually see I wonder if I can go over there. Let's see. Takes me over there. Yeah, because the new Paris Tribunal is an amazing looking building. But it's not. Where am I? I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere here in this park. Okay, let me take you out, and I'm going to try and show you the new Paris Tribunal building if I can. Maybe if I go on somewhere like this. Here. There it is. So it's this thing here, quite a strange looking building. And if I go along here, maybe I'll get to a sculpture that I took some photographs in. And it's kind of on 3 levels. I mean, 3 sort of chunks of it. It's quite an amazing looking thing. Okay, I think there's a sculpture here now. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's what it is. In fact, that doesn't really show why it's strange, because it's got these huge steps on it. So it looks like sort of 3 big steps in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, let's come back to. So this was looking down almost literally from where I left you there in the park. And in terms of the photograph, it's got an interesting. This reminds me of a bit of a hexagon as well, kind of. It's got this very strange zigzag of light looking down onto the boulevard. And what do we see there? Well, we see a campsite. This is the new Paris campsite, if you want to know where it is. Of course, it's not. It's homeless people. Well, they've kind of got a home, haven't they? And you often see this, and this is why I say that Paris is the city of light and shadow, which is quite well echoed by my photograph, which is light and shadow, with the tents in the middle and people walking past and So, some people living their lives in their fancier Parisian apartments and others living in Paris. You can't deny that they're living in Paris, but in slightly less salubrious conditions. And here's another one before going over to the Paris side. This is a gem, an absolute gem of a find. And I don't know why I didn't find it. Who knows where it is? Do you know? In the comments, Paris fanatics, tell me what this is. Tell me its history. Well, it's a passageway, and it's in between two buildings. This will be a future Paris quiz, so listen carefully. And it's in between a station and a hotel. And the station is Saint-Lazare, and the hotel is the Hilton. And it's called the Passage de l'Impératrice, or Passage Eugénie. And it's called that because apparently when Empress Eugénie was the second emperor's wife, so Napoleon III's wife. And it got that name because it's a passageway that allowed her to slip out of the hotel. I think it was a hotel then. I don't know, to be honest. I should check. Was the Hilton Hotel around 200 years ago? And slip out into the station incognito. I mean, I don't know how incognito an empress can be, coming out, appearing from a pretty impressive passageway. But anyway, that's the idea. She could slip out without being seen by too many people. And I don't know, get on a train? Did empresses go on trains? I don't know. And now it's wait for it, a restaurant called 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙢𝙦, I don't know how you say it. So in fact, in the passageway is a restaurant with tables, which is pretty cool. I haven't been in there, but maybe one day I will. And it's architecturally beautiful. Underneath it, looking up, the arches of it, you can see the arches of it are brick arches. And it reminded me of when I'm underneath the raised sections of the metro, the Paris metro. There's a couple of lines, line 2 and line 6, which are up in the air over the boulevards. And I think I'm right in saying, if you look up on some of them, you see these beautiful bricked arches. And not to mention, the ironwork and everything, the patterns. It reminds me very much of Eiffel. I was going to say Eiffel Tower's work. No, Gustave Eiffel's work. Although I'm not sure it is, because I'm not sure if it was him or not. But I see traits of his things there, but maybe it isn't. Right, let's go over to the Paris site now. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So I made a great discovery on the Paris site, and that's these things on the right here. And I'm going to pick one or two of them and tell you about them. So this one says, did you know, in the night of the 20th to the 21st April, so it's like on this day. Oh, Dorothy is saying, I thought it was between two shops. Okay, there you go. In between a hotel, the Hilton Odeon Hilton, I think it's called. No, Opera Hilton Opera, because it's near the opera, and Gare Saint-Lazare. Thanks for commenting. Really nice. If you're watching the replay, you can comment too. So it says, on this day, on the night between the 20th to the 21st of April, 1944. So it's a war story. I'm just wondering if I can make this. It says to know more. No, that's not it. Let's click on here and see what happens. Some great old postcards of occupied Paris. So it's saying, I've actually lost the bit where it said, did you know? Which kind of introduced it nicely. So I'm going to read here. It says, did you know, on the night, okay, I've said that 3 times, a military operation from the Allies conducted a bombing in the north of Paris and the south of the Saint-Denis plain, which is just to the north of Paris. The Allies wanted to stop the advancement or the displacement of the movement of German troops and bomb the the railway hubs. So the station around La Chapelle was a strategic target. So if we go to that area, what they're talking about, it's so we're talking about, let's come out of that view as well. If I can, I will. How can I come out of this? Layers, is that it? So that bombing took place in the north of Paris, around here, and this thing here, which they call La Plaine de Saint-Denis. So it's like a plain, a flat area around from Saint-Denis to Paris. And they talked about Porte de la Chapelle, did they say? They said, where is it? Sorry. So the Gare de Tirage de la Chapelle. So there's around about La Chapelle area, which is Porte de la Chapelle here. You can see that it's a bit of a crazy area because you've got all of the lines from Gare du Nord streaming out to the north. You've got all of the lines from Gare de l'Est streaming out to the northeast and the east. And in the middle here, you've got all sorts of lines which are sort of linking things together. I guess probably it links, if a train needed to go from Gare du Nord to Gare de l'Est, it could probably, there's probably a way of going up here, coming back down here, up here, and back down here more easily than jumping across. By the way, that's why they call the 10th arrondissement here, they call it the arrondissement of two stations, because they've got these two massive stations really close to each other. It's kind of funny that they did that, so close to each other in the town, and yet going to quite different areas. Maybe it was so that trains could interchange kind of easily from them. I don't know. So this area must have been bombed here, around here, and around here to stop the Germans advancing or moving. So the rest of this story, then it's photographs of those bombings, the results of the bombings. What happens if I click here? Okay, so it's the archives. You can see bombed buildings. Look at that massive hole. I don't know if that can go any bigger. That says, oh, okay. And it does go bigger. That's cool, isn't it? Let's check this out. What happens if I do that? Yeah, look at that hole in the middle of Paris. A bomb just landed there. Now, would that stop the Allies from... It's strange because it looks like it's bombed down to something underneath the ground, because it looks like there was a cavern underneath the ground. Maybe it was just the drainage system, or that's pretty incredible. What else is there? This one, Rue de la Chapelle. Okay, buildings completely destroyed. What else? Oh, this is looks like a railway bridge has been brought down, which was, I think, one of the objectives of the campaign. The Allies' bombing campaign was to do that. I'm not an expert at all. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm just, trying to. These images are pretty impressive, though. To imagine seeing Paris in this state is really quite something. Because I kind of thought Paris escaped the war, but in some cases it didn't. I mean, the Germans had to. I think when they got to Paris, they didn't destroy it. Although there was plenty of fighting in Paris, I think when they arrived probably, and also when they were, when they were chased from the city or killed in place. I know there were battles, for quite a while. There were battles with snipers and things going on for quite a few weeks, I think. And there is the remains of a building that has been bombed. Yeah, so that's pretty impressive. Thanks, Paris.fr. On this day also, we have this one, which says, so this was yesterday, the 20th, Napoleon Bonaparte III So this is the second emperor, the one I was talking about, whose emperor wife had the passage named after her, was born on the 20th of April 1808 in Paris, the nephew of Napoleon Louis Bonaparte, the one that we generally think of as Napoleon. So this was his nephew. He became the first elected president, officially elected by the people. Only men could vote, so it was a masculine vote. And 4 years after, so he was elected 1848, and in a kind of a similar way to his uncle, 4 years after, he brought about a coup d'etat and became emperor. His reign was brought to an end by the debacle of Sedan, and the defeat of France against Prussia. And some of the bombing we were seeing there was no, that was a completely different battle. The Prussians, it was around about 1870 when the Prussians surrounded Paris and things like that. And maybe again on this day, do we have... This one is interesting. A real bit of history, geographical history. It says there's nowhere to go to for this, but I could maybe find something. It says, did you know on the 19th of April, 1614, the 𝘓𝘓𝗧, so the Cow Island, there was literally an island called Cow Island in the middle of the Seine, which is still part of an island today. So Cow Island, which was covered in prairie and probably cows, was united with Île de Notre Dame in the an urban operation, and it is now Île Saint-Louis. So it had been inhabited. Île Saint-Louis had been inhabited since 1640, and now has a road running down the middle of it. So I can show you that. Now that's a real bit of Paris history. Did you know that? And I've got another bit of Paris history which they don't mention. Okay, so here we go. So what they mentioned is that Île Saint-Louis here used to be two islands. This bit at the end was 𝘓𝘓𝗧, so Cow Island. And they brought it together and made it this island here, Île Saint-Louis. It's funny because in the past, this bigger island here, before it was attached to 𝘓𝘓𝗧, was called Île Notre Dame. Île Notre Dame. But it's funny because Île Notre Dame was not on Île Notre Dame, it was on Île de la Cité. Let's see if I can very quickly get a picture of 𝘓𝘓𝗧 that is easy to see. 𝘓𝘓𝗧 Paris. Images. And I've got another thing to tell you about another kind of island that was in Paris. All right, so that's probably the one that we just saw a picture of. Beautiful old map. Just waiting for it to blow up there. Okay, so is it going to give me a bigger version? Okay, there we go. So that was it. Île Notre Dame, 𝘓𝘓𝗧. And let me see. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Hang on, what's that opening? Okay, so have a look at this map here. Now, what this thing is, if I'm not mistaken, this thing here was an island. And this bit here is now not an island anymore. So there used to be basically the Seine, not exactly a river, but like a channel going down the side of this bit here. And this is the island that we were just talking about with 𝘓𝘓𝗧 and Île Notre Dame. And what happened to this island here, which was called 𝘓𝘓𝗧𝗓. Here's another picture of it. Okay, it even had a bridge. So this thing here, you see, is now this bit here. So they attached it to the mainland. They brought it back home. This used to be an island with a part of this river running down the side here. And now it's not anymore. So, you know, that's interesting as well, isn't it? And finally on the site, no, I'll show you some more photographs, then I'll go back to the Paris site for another really interesting thing, and that'll be the end of the show. Thanks for commenting, Dorothy. Really appreciate it. All right, so do you know where this is? Look closely at the symbols on the plaques on the floor, which are arranged in a special way, not by random. You see a kind of tall building with pillars. It's, did you get it? La Bastille. So what they've done is they've traced, these are new, by the way. I'm always excited to find new plaques in Paris, which are not just boring ones. These plaques represent something that was there on the ground, like the edge of a wall, like the edge of the old Bastille prison, or this, because it's round, this might have been a tower or some sort of pillar. So I'm actually at Bastille. On the ground, you've got these things, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if you can see it there. I'm just going to bring up a picture of La Bastille, which it's a very impressive and imposing building. La Bastille. It was a prison, and this is La Bastille prison. And this was the thing that was stormed on Bastille Day, the day of the French Revolution started in 1789, I think. Look at that. I mean, you know, it's an imposing building, not a fun little fancy chateau on the Loire. I think you agree. Look at this. Amazing. Look at that. This is, I'm not sure. It doesn't say what it is. But what it looks like is I'm going to see if I can open it in a new window. It looks like what they called the storming of the Bastille, when it was taken over by the people and they proceeded to destroy it, which was one of their greatest pleasures, because it was a symbol of the power and the arrogance of the royals. And breaking it down was, you know, a wonderful symbolic act. And what happened sometime after that was that parts of it were put in places around Paris so we could remember it. But one particularly interesting thing, I think it's Le Pont de la Concorde. So they took parts of La Bastille and they used it to build one of the bridges here. Nope, 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 this one. Pont de la Concorde here. They actually used stones from La Bastille, some of these stones here, you see, falling down, to build the bridge. Not just to recycle the stones, but so that Parisians could forever walk over the Bastille prison and stamp on it and show their, you know, spit on it and show their disdain for the old power of the royals. Okay, so that was that one there. And I'll finish. Oh, I was on my photographs, wasn't I? So here are my photographs. Here's another one. This is great. This is a lovely little place that I discovered, but I've already shown you where it was. This was, can you guess? It was in a park that I only discovered very recently, or at least I'm aware of discovering it very recently, a couple of weeks ago. I told you about it about half an hour ago. It is in this tiny little park here. It's not tiny, but it's not big. You know, it's not at all like Parc Montsouris, Parc Monceau, Parc des Buttes-Chaumont, les Tuileries, Jardin de Luxembourg, Champ de Mars, nothing like that. It's a little, they call it a square. You see, it doesn't even merit the name park. And they call it the Square des Batignolles. And that's where it is. It's here. A little carousel thing. I wonder if I go to layers, I'll be able to see it. Put my mouse where it is. You can't really see it, but it's there. Back to the photographs. It's hectic. So this, it's a little, I don't know if you call it a belvedere or something like that, but it's open to art exhibitions now, very small art exhibitions. So here someone is exhibiting their art, which is in the form of, it looks like huge water lily pads. Excuse me. Huge water lily pads, and they do have a little lake and a little river, so maybe there are some of those there as well. Very nice. Of course, it doesn't actually look quite that beautiful in real life because, you know, I sabified it. This is from the other new park that I showed you. This one here. So this is this water. So if I go down to this water, let's see if I can do it. Yeah, it should let me go down there. What they've done with this park, which is good, is they have different areas. I'm obviously stuck in the middle of the grass. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'm not sure if these photographs were taken when they were building the park or not. Oh, I see. Yeah, I've kind of, the thing I'm looking for, the water I'm looking for is behind these things here. So you see these blue doors. Can you see those blue doors on the left there? Well, look at my photograph. Those are those blue doors. And can you see anything special about this photograph? You probably can. It's a bird. There is a beautiful bird there. And it's a heron. And it's absolutely at home, surrounded by people, there's runners. It actually went over to the edge and it was quite close to the people, no fear at all. Whereas normally these birds normally take flight when they see a human. So it was great to see that. It seems quite at home. It would be a bit of a lonely place to have its nest in the middle of that clump of weeds in the middle of the lake, but I don't know, maybe it will. And doesn't seem at all perturbed. I've seen herons in 𝘲𝙗𝗏, in certainly around in the woods, you know, Bois de Vincennes and maybe Bois de Boulogne in their lakes there. They will have those. I've seen a heron. I saw a heron recently, and this is quite surprising. Do you know that there are a couple of lakes next to the Eiffel Tower? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Well, I saw a heron quite at home on one of the lakes next to the Eiffel Tower. Let me show you. So there you can see the lakes, those two blobs of blue on either side of the Eiffel Tower. You can get into these, at least the southern one, for free, but now the Eiffel Tower is surrounded by a huge glass barrier, so to sort of prevent terrorism and stuff. So you don't have to go up the Eiffel Tower and pay to get to this lake, but you do have to go through a barrier and show your bag. And on this lake, pretty as anything, was a heron the other month. And the blue doors reflect nicely, don't they, in the lake? Here's another one. It's the same thing, just a little bit further along. The heron is almost in the same place. There's the blue doors again, and there's a walkway. You see how close it is to the people. It's really quite surprising. It was just looking at the people. I think it was probably fishing, but it kind of looks like it's looking right at the people. I love the angles in this photograph. I'm not sure if the buildings are probably original buildings. In other words, not existing before the park and not destroyed. They look older, they don't look modern. And it's nice that they've been able to incorporate them into the architecture of the park. Because with the arches, they do look nice. They're not horrible. And here's another from the election. This is, do you know where this is? Answers on a postcard. Let me know. Oh, we're over time, gone over time. This is outside Saint-Lazare. There is the famous clock statue. This is a glass depository thing. And this is Mélenchon, the farish left guy. who said, "Do not vote for Madame Le Pen. Do not vote for Madame Le Pen." This was at a time when he could have been in the second round, and now he is not, I'm afraid. I think that might have been a better debate. Would have been more interesting, I think, than with Le Pen, but it wasn't to be. And finally, this is me looking down again from the same place that I showed you the tents on the street, looking down from the same place. And I got a photograph which I really like and which I'm exploiting, I'm repurposing in various different places for various different reasons. For example, in the theme in the groups, my creative groups at the moment is, just going to get rid of most of these windows, is looking down. So I'm going to try and show you how I've used that in one of my groups, and then it'll be more or less the end, I think. So for example, in the smartphone photography one. So if you want to express yourself artistically in photography, in writing, or in anything else, go to one of my other groups, smartphone photography or photography, it doesn't have to be smartphone, writing or artistry, painting. I've got a group for everything. So let's see if I can find the way I've used that. So that's someone looking down on a tree. That's Beatrice looking down on the Trocadero on the Eiffel Tower from the Trocadero. Looking down on some flowers, and there we go. There it is. That's the theme. So I've repurposed this to be the theme photograph for the next 2 weeks in my creative groups, looking down. I like the fact that I'm looking down on him, he's looking down on the zebra crossing, and it actually looks like he's walking down the photograph to the bottom of it, like down a sort of staircase. So that was fun as well. And that's my last photograph. Now, I did have something on here which I wanted to show you, but I don't have time. So I'll have to show it to you next time. I was going to show you this article. Of course, you're free to look at it yourself. These places that have disappeared, which are part of the history of Paris. So I'm going to bookmark this and probably look at it in the next show, which will be in 3 weeks, not in 2 weeks, because I'm going on a small holiday for a week in 2 weeks' time. These places that have disappeared, but which are also part of the history of Paris. And there are some nice photographs like that. But that's for next time. That was the Paris show, the Paris Set Me Free show. Comes on every 2 weeks and is developing all the time. So I hope you let me know if you like this mixture of my photographs, my stories, little bits about history of Paris, zooming into the Google Maps, things from the Paris.fr site. They always have interesting things about that, and other little odds and ends. Let me know what you think. That's my this is my life's work, devoting my life to creativity in and around Paris and encouraging other people to do so as well. You don't have to be in Paris to be creative, of course, but that happens to be my thing. So thank you for watching. On the replay, please say hello as well, and I will see you again soon. My next show is on Tuesday, and it's in the smartphone photography group with the theme looking down, if you're interested. And then the next Thursday, it will be writing, anything and everything to do with words. The next Tuesday will be off, and the next Thursday will be off. I am going away from Paris. Yes, it's possible. And I will be back the week after that with the creative show and the next Paris show. So thank you. Dorothy says, I like it. I have not been in Paris for years. Really? Oh, well, when you come, you will have a personal guide if you want one. Okay, that's it, folks. Thanks. And I will see you again very soon. Oh, yes, one more thing. Do I have a link to infinitycoaching.biz? If you want to be coached by me to be as creative as you would love to be, check out infinitycoaching.biz and we will do just that. Bye-bye, folks. Have a nice weekend.